Welcome, crypto fam, to the #1 daily Bitcoin pod. We're pumping back in the green. In today's show, I'll be sharing the latest Bitcoin technical analysis as Bitcoin hodler unrealized profits near 350% as 100,000 risks sell off. Also breaking news, 7.2 billion. Brown University just bought 4.9 million worth of the Bitcoin ETF, meaning the endowments are buying pretty little bitty. We'll also be discussing Tether posts 1 billion in Q1 operating profit with now 5.6 billion in excess reserves. Also, Ethereum is more like a meme coin, says trading firm as Ether drops 45% year to date. Also, aliens meet the Bitcoin. Roswell is first in the U.S. to hold Bitcoin reserves. We'll also be discussing El Salvador's economy minister says Bitcoin accumulation spree is an important project despite the IMF deal. We'll also be discussing breaking news. Michael Saylor's bold plan, $84 billion Bitcoin acquisition strategy incoming. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more in today's show. If you're new to the channel, important, smash the likes, go ahead, subscribe, then ring the bell. Turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, just like this. And happy Sat Stacking Friday. Today is pod episode 1980. I'm your host, JV. It's May 2nd. 2025. Bullishness in the market, looking to recapture 100K. Let's kick it off with our market watch. As we do each and every day, a pretty little bitty, maintaining above 97,000 at the time of the live stream, up 0.5% on the day. Ether trading at around 1800, down 0.05% on the day, while XRP, BNB, SUI, Solana, Cardano all correcting and in the red. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. We're currently sitting above a $3 trillion market cap collectively across all the crypto sphere. Bitty market cap fast approaching 2 trillion. It's 1.927 trillion to be exact as of today. 72 billion worth of volume for the past 24 hours. And the silver lining, Bitcoin dominance had made a recent high. We haven't seen that in a while, almost 64%. And the Ether dominance at 7.4%. And checking out top 100, crypto gainers past 24 hours, pudgy little penguins leading the pack, up 12%, followed by virtual, up 11%, followed by immutable, up 7.5%. Which alt, if any, you bullish on for the bull holla. And checking out the crypto bubbles, we get a visual perspective on the day. Safe to say 80-20, red over green. Zooming out for the weekly, I dare say 60-40, green over red. And zooming out on the monthly, kind of nice because we haven't seen monthly bullishness. It's been bearish past several months, but as of now, 90-10, maybe 85-15, green over red. So the alts are pumping once again overall. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index, today we're 67 greed, yesterday a 53, and last week a 60 in greed. And checking out the infamous time chain calendar. We're currently on block number, come on, read them and weep, 894,906 with 155,094 blocks until the next halving of 2028. You can currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,030 sats. To pick up the sats, put down the gats, pick up some Bitcoin caps from my man Sergio over at bitcoincaps.net. Get yourself a custom CNA cap just like this. But yeah, let's move right into our TA, aka astrology for the baddies, and we'll pull up some of the live charts. Bitcoin hodler unrealized profits near 350% as 100,000 risk sell off. That's right. Bitcoin at multi-month highs will tempt an increasing number of the hodlers to take profits, including the so-called diamond hands, using a variety of metrics to track investor profitability. Glassnode shows the aggregate long-term hodler unrealized profits are now nearing 350%, a key historical level, quoting them here. Having established that the long-term hodler cohort is expressing a preference to hold on to their supply, we can attempt to quantify the potential price levels required to entice them to part with their coins and commence the next wave of profit taking. Long-term hodlers refer to the entities holding Bitcoin for more than 6 months. Where my long-term hodlers at? And for Glassnode, the key price area to watch for changes in their behavior is the 100,000 zone, which we're less than 3,000 away from recapturing. Historically speaking, the long-term hodler cohort typically ramps up their spending pressure when the average member is holding a 350% unrealized profit margin. So reconciling this information with a spot price, the average long-term hodler is expected to hit a 350% profit margin at the 99.9 thousand level. As such, we can anticipate an uptick in the sell side pressure as the market approaches the zone, making it an area that will likely require substantial buy side demand to absorb the distribution and sustain the upwards momentum. So yeah, Bitcoin reached almost 98 here this morning, the highest price we've seen since February 21st. While more than 20,000 above the recent lows, Bitcoin is not yet convincing traders it can return to the classic bull market behavior. One analyst says massive wall of the long liquidation stacked up under 91. Shorts have current price 96.6, barely anything significant. And shout out Chandy for the super, greatly appreciate it. She says YouTube is dead. Other than me watching others on One Day We Shall band together, they can get the tube lube. I know YouTube does suck, and I second that, but it is what it is. Appreciate the super, and of course, with the blackjack, with the bitty orange. So thank you, Chandy. Quoting the analyst again, huge imbalance suggests potential downside magnet is strong, high risk for the longs near the current levels. Upside fuel looks thin for right now. And Glassnode Analytics points out the price has recently surged above both these pricing models and is now attempting to consolidate within the zone, quoting them here. However, these are levels that must be broken and held for further price appreciation, as the rejection of this level would push the price back into the bearish territory and a return to many investors in a state of meaningful unrealized losses. And in other breaking news, $7.2 billion Brown University just bought almost $5 million worth of the Bitcoin ETF, 4.9 million, meaning the endowments are buying the bidding alongside the institutions and the rest of the world, including governments and states, etc. But anyways, let's pull up some of the live charts real quick via TradingView, via Coinbase. You should be able to see here on your screen. The 1 hour chart shows a bullish pennant formation. Bull target in play, just shy of 102,000 here on the 1 hour chart. Zooming out, we'll take some different looks at some of the different time frames, checking out the 4 hour. Bullish overall as well, but we're currently, again, just north of 97,000, less than 3,000 away from the coveted 100K. And zooming out a little further, we look at a daily. You can see green already on the day. We had a green candle yesterday, and last week we had 7 consecutive daily candle closes in the green, which is pretty bullish. We do have a bull target on your screen on the daily chart, just shy of 112,000. Price discovery still sitting at 109.3, which is the current all-time high achieved on inauguration day for the Trumpster, which was January 20th. So it's been quite a few months, and hopefully we can recapture all-time highs this month of May. Let me know your thoughts on that. And checking out the weekly. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive weekly candle closes. Thus far, so good. Bull scenario, 124,000. Sexy cup and handle target in play. Send it and let's get it. And taking a quick look at the monthly chart. As you can see here already for the month of May, we're forming green. April did not disappoint. And unfortunately, March and February were very bearish monthly closes. But there you have it, fam. Next story is regarding Tether. So let's break it down. And again, welcome everyone just joining the live stream. Next headline here reads, Tether posts $1 billion in Q1 operating profit with now $5.6 billion in excess reserves. They've been crushing it, to say the least. That's an understatement. Tether, the company behind the world's largest stablecoin, USDT, by market cap, released the financials for the first quarter of 2025, disclosing nearly $120 billion in exposure to the U.S. Treasuries and over $1 billion in operating profit. And according to Tether's Q1 2025 financial report, the company's assets include $99 billion in direct U.S. Treasury bills, along with over $23 billion in additional exposure through repurchase agreements and other cash equivalent assets as outlined here. And according to the announcement, Tether now holds $5.6 billion in excess for reserves for its USDT stablecoin, down from $7.1 billion in excess from the last quarter of 2024. The stablecoin has a market capitalization of $149 billion as of May 1st. Quoting them here, circulating supply of USDT grew by approximately $7 billion in Q1, with a 46 million increase in user wallets. The company's excess capital continues to fund strategic investments with more than $2 billion allocated in renewable energy, AI, and peer-to-peer communications, as well as data infrastructure. The stablecoin market is broadly dominated by tokens pegged to the US dollar, with USDT and Circle's USDC holding a combined 87% of the market share. And according to the US Treasury's Q1 2025 report, the market cap for the dollar-backed stablecoins is poised to reach $2 trillion by 2028, which is currently more than the Bitcoin market cap. And also in other stablecoin news, Ripple, the company that owns XRP, just offered to purchase Circle's USDC. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it was like a $4 or $5 billion offer to acquire the company, and it got denied. So just FYI, I wanted to throw that out there. I saw that in the news yesterday. Also, European Union officials have recently raised concerns about the risks of over-reliance on the dollar-pegged stables. According to the Bank of Italy, disruptions in the stablecoin market or the underlying bonds could have repercussions for other parts of the global financial system. Next headline, Ether, more like a meme coin, down 45% year to date. That's right. I believe the all-time high was achieved all the way back in November of 2021 when it was 4,500, and now it's struggling to maintain 1,700. That's right. It struggled in the first quarter of the year. A US-based investment firm, 2Prime, shared, and they dropped support for ETH and adopted a Bitcoin-only strategy. Smart move. After lending $1.5 billion in loans both in Bitcoin and Ether over the past 15 months, 2Prime decided to ditch ETH to focus solely on Bitcoin asset management and lending, according to the firm's announcement officially of yesterday, May 1st, quoting them here. ETH statistical trader behavior, value proposition, and community culture have failed beyond a point that is worth engaging. I'm going to repeat that. It's powerful. ETH statistical trading behavior, value proposition, and community culture have failed beyond a point that it's worth engaging. Ultimately meaning it's failed beyond a point of no return. How do you like those apples, Mr. Vitalik? The firm's shift to a Bitcoin-only approach comes as ETH has lost 45% of its value year to date. And that's the second largest crypto by market cap, FYI. And yes, it does have an infinite max supply. That's why no one trusts this mofo. But anyways, with some optimists speculating that ETH is potentially close to the bottom and reversing its negative trend soon, we'll soon see. And as an algorithmic trading firm, we value data more than narratives, 2Prime said, adding that the data suggests ETH has fundamentally changed. No, it has changed. Their protocol, everything changed. In addition to decorrelating from the biddy, Ether has become no longer predictable. Quoting them here, it trades now like a meme coin rather than a predictable asset. I think the only one still bullish on Ether is the Trump family. Can't make that ish up, but it is what it is. Even during the turbulence of Q1 2025, Bitcoin remained within its fundamental behavior, whereas ETH saw several multi-standard deviation moves. 2Primes went on to say that such conditions create a headache for both the algorithmic trading and the ETH-backed lending, as the asset no longer behaves predictably. Founded in 2019 by Alexander Blum and Mark Fleury, 2Prime is an investment advisory firm registered with the US SEC. The firm has been offering trading and lending services for both Bitcoin and Ether for the past 6 years. 2Prime's critical remarks about Ether were quick to trigger responses from the community, with many seeing a message as another bottom signal for the crypto. As someone shared here, what a retarded essay statement. One market observer wrote, as shared here, let me know if you think it's retarded or not. They wrote, never even heard of them. Seems irrelevant. If this isn't a bottom signal for ETH, I don't know what is. So, those ETH lovers. 2Primes also mentioned the weak performance of the Ether ETFs, highlighting the Bitcoin ETF buying has outpaced ETH by almost 24 times. That's a fact. You can't argue with the numbers, fam. Quoting them here, the failure of ETH's ETF creates a reflexive loop whereby institutions like the BlackRock dedicated fewer resources to their promotion and sale. Bitcoin has found the mainstream while ETH has floundered. You say that again. Despite Ether ETFs seeing low performance, Ether is still the biggest altcoin for crypto ETFs in terms of assets under management, far outpacing Solana and XRP. And according to CoinShares, Ether-based ETF products saw 9.2 billion assets under management by the end of the last week, while Solana and XRP follow with 1.4 billion and 1 billion respectively. So following the approval from the US SEC back in May of 2024, spot Ether ETF saw a slow start in 2024 with performance losing ground compared to the massive spot Bitcoin ETF debut. So ultimately, the institutions aren't really digging Ether, and I mean, just based upon volume. I mean, check the scoreboards while the institutions continue accumulating like Bitcoin, like there is no tomorrow, because they all know there's only one apex predator. His name is Bitcoin. Let's continue with the news. Next story of the day, fam-a-lam. We're going to be discussing Roswell, New Mexico. Stacking the biddy. The aliens want your biddy. That's right, the aliens meet the biddy. Roswell is the first in the U.S. to hold the Bitcoin reserves. And it's official. As per the city officials, the initially small first donation of over 3 million Satoshis. That's right, the aliens are stacking sats, will form the basis for much more significant financial plan. The city accepted its first crypto donation of 0.0305 BTC, which is roughly 2,800 USD, April 29th this year, to kick off what the officials have dubbed the Roswell Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. That's right, there is an official Roswell, New Mexico Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, which is pretty lit. Just saying that sounds awesome. But anyways, the reserve will increase by further Bitcoin donations and sponsorships over the period of a decade. As per reports by the city council, the crypto hand must accumulate to the value of 1 million before it can be tapped as an emergency fund. So that means they're going to stack sats until they have at least $1 million fund. The city government will oversee the crypto reserves with tight control measures in place. Any expenditure from the reserve needs to be approved unanimously by the city council. Regulations allow for up to 21%. That's a blackjack, baby, of the total reserve to be spent every 5 years, with priority initially given to assisting elderly citizens and paying water bills and supporting emergency disaster relief efforts, as outlined right here. So game on, New Mexico, let's get it. Roswell's leading action is made as some states considered the same crypto measures. Arizona's legislature recently approved Senate Bills 1025 and 1373, which will enable the state treasury and retirement funds to invest 10% of their balance in virtual currencies. Those measures now go to Governor Katie Hobbs for signing, so it's up to you, Katie. You better make the right decision or we'll unleash the hounds. Nipinator. The trend towards state reserves goes beyond New Mexico, Arizona, Alabama, North Carolina, Texas, California, Florida, and New Hampshire. Have all reportedly interested in creating their own Bitcoin reserves. As outlined here, State Reserve Race Update, North Carolina Bitcoin Reserve Bill HB 92 has passed the House, so they got the first mover's advantage. North Carolina is the 5th state legislator to pass the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve legislation through at least one chamber. So it's really Arizona leading the way, North Carolina right behind it, and now we have, Roswell, New Mexico, etc. So yeah, in a city that has long been synonymous with mysteries beyond this world, or on the other side of the ice wall, it's only natural that Roswell is now leading the way as an unorthodox financial future. By becoming the first U.S. municipality to use Bitcoin as a reserve asset, Roswell, let me know if you've ever been there, has again positioned itself at the forefront of the otherworldly tale. This time, however, the flying objects are of a digital nature. And if you don't know now, you know, pretty little bitty getting stacked by the aliens. Let's continue ripping through the news. Bitcoins are ripping like a news guy bipping. Here we go. Next headline, fam. El Salvador's economy minister says pretty little bitty accumulation, and I just clicked off, and what in the world am I doing? Here we go. We're back. So yeah, El Salvador's economy minister says Bitcoin accumulation spree, an important project despite the IMF deal, referring to the recent $1.4 billion loan. So let's break her down. Top El Salvador officially reportedly says Bitcoin purchases are continuing despite the loan agreement. And we know that for a fact because the proof of reserves, every single day they buy at least one Bitcoin. And obviously we can track it. According to the new report by Bloomberg, Maria Heyman, El Salvador's economic minister, says the country's decision to accumulate Bitcoin as a reserve asset is not ceasing. Well, of course not. Quoting her here, there's a commitment of El Salvador President Nayib Bukele. That's right, to keep accumulating the assets as a way to do precisely that. Bitcoin keeps being an important project. There's an asset accumulation that we are seeing from the government perspective, from the private sector perspective. Questions over El Salvador's Bitcoin buying has raised ever since receiving the $1.4 billion in funding from the Washington-based lender late last year in exchange for pledging that includes shoring up its fiscal accounts and scaling back purchases of the pretty little bitty. However, the purchases do not seem to be running afoul. In fact, they've only increased. And earlier in the week, the IMF addressed the question from financial software company Ion Group, asking how El Salvador is still accumulating Bitcoin despite agreeing to stop making any more purchases as part of the loan agreement. Well, maybe Bukele had his fingers crossed. You ever think of that? IMF. Anyways, Rodrigo Valdez, director of the IMF Western Hemisphere Department, said despite the recent Bitcoin purchases, the country is still working within its performance criteria set forth by the IMF. In terms of El Salvador, let me say I can confirm they continue to comply with their commitment of non-accumulation of Bitcoin by the overall fiscal sector, which is performance criteria that we have. Well, it's one way or the other. They're either complying or they're not. My understanding is they're not. And it is what it is. Deal with it. But on top of that, I think this is very important for the discussion in El Salvador. The program of El Salvador is not about the biddy. It is much more, much deeper in structural reform in terms of governance, in terms of transparency. There's a lot of progress there. And also on the fiscal. Authorities have been making a lot of the progress implementing the reform. But yeah, I mean, the proof of work says it all. I mean, every day I see El Salvador share the proof of reserve, another Bitcoin. So they're not slowing down. And in fact, right after they pen that deal with the IMF, the most recent one, they purchased a tremendous amount of Bitcoin like they've never done before. So I think that's ultimately Bukele saying, F you, IMF. Take that. I think they're only going to slow down things like the Shivo wallet, maybe get rid of that because a lot of people don't have a lot of favorable feedback when it comes to that, but they're not stopping their Bitcoin accumulation spree. In fact, they seem to be ramping her up as they should be before Strategy and 21 purchase all the Bitcoin as Bitcoin acquisition companies. And as of today, breaking news, actually as of yesterday, Michael Saylor, massive purchasing. They're not stopping at 21 billion as per their 21 plan, but they now have an $84 billion Bitcoin acquisition strategy, which we'll be diving into next. Now for our feature story of the day, big news, Michael Saylor's bold plan, $84 billion strategy to fuel their Bitcoin investments. That's right, incoming $84 billion Bitcoin acquisition in total. He originally announced the 21 plan. Well, he just more than tripled that. And this is mind-boggling to say the least. And let's start actually with a tweet from Saylor. MSTR announces the Bitcoin yield of 13.7% and Bitcoin gain of 5.8 billion year to date. Double capital plan to 42 billion equity and 42 billion fixed income to purchase the biddy, and increases Bitcoin yield target from 15 to 25% and a Bitcoin gain target from 10 billion to 15 billion just for this year. For 2025, this is the official press release dropped by Saylor, and make sure to check the show notes below the video in the description on the Rumble and the Tube. I always include the resources where I get the news from, and shout out to the Giga Chat, making massive news to say the least. So yeah, Saylor Strategy says it still has 57 billion left of the 84 billion to raise to buy more Bitcoin. I mean, who's doing it bigger than that? Can the United States even compete with their strategic Bitcoin reserve? Will 21, Jack Mallers' new company, be able to compete with the backing of Tether? Yeah, I mean, you guys let me know. And in other news, as you can see here, I wrote 84 billion in Bitcoin purchases incoming, broskies. Let's see what else we got here. Bullish Bitcoin. Oh, a random. Bitcoin price forecast from 2025 ranges from 122 Gs to 700,000 according to the major banks, investors, and funds. Most of the estimates fall between 200 and 250,000, with BlackRock 700,000 target, assuming a 2 to 5% institutional portfolio allocation, into the pretty low biddy going up forever, Laura. So here are all the targets for this year, 2025. Standard Chartered primary shareholder, BlackRock. They're projecting 200,000. HC Wainwright 225. Cena 135 to 285. BlackRock 700 Gs, Fundstrat 250, Pompliano 250, Shamat P 500, Van Eck 180, 10x Research 122, and GFO 150. But let's get to the man of the hour, the Mikey Saylor. I just shared with you the official tweet. Currently, the company holds 553,555 Bitcoin, acquired for a total amount of 37.9 billion at an average price of 69,000 per biddy. MicroStrategy achieved 13.7% return in Bitcoin and a gain of 5.8 billion since the beginning of the year, up 6 billion, and we're only in the month of May just for this year. The company now aims for a Bitcoin return of 15 to 25% and a Bitcoin gain of 10 to 15 billion this year. Since late 2022, MicroStrategy significantly ramped up its purchases for Bitcoin, acquiring Bitcoin regularly every week. This trend has continued this year. You know, the infamous Saylor tracker, typically every Sunday he does a post. The following day on a Monday, he makes the official announcement like clockwork. Currently, Saylor and his company hold over 2% of the total Bitcoin circulating accumulating supply, making it the publicly traded company with the largest amount of Bitcoin. Only BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, holds more. They currently have 570,000. Let's update that. As of the other day, it's now over 600,000 Bitcoin. So if you can collectively add up the two giants right there, BlackRock and Saylor, they have as much Bitcoin as Satoshi, like 1.1 million, ballpark range, game on. And they've been able to achieve this almost effortlessly, it seems. And as part of the 84 billion fundraising effort, MicroStrategy announced a new public offering of 21 billion in common stock. The company already raised 6 billion of that through the issuance of its Class A shares, hence why Saylor is the Bitcoin alchemist. Furthermore, they have recently indicated they still have 57 billion to raise to buy more Bitcoin. Their massive accumulation strategy is currently only 32% complete. So in conclusion, this initiative confirms MicroStrategy's unwavering commitment to Bitcoin and also underscores the increasing importance of cryptocurrency in the current financial landscape. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts with Saylor, massive acquisition. Let me know if you have any exposure to MicroStrategy, and do you think this will be achieved potentially this year in 2025, 84 billion in total raised to buy Bitcoin. And how much Bitcoin do you think that will put them at before the end of the year, considering we're in the second quarter right now? Still got a long ways to go. But let me know your thoughts, fam, and I'll read your comments out loud. And again, welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream. It seems the condition of the stream is still excellent on my end, so good stuff. How can I rate? That's what I'm saying. How can I borrow just a few billion? I'm not greedy. I just want a couple of billies at 0% interest, and I don't got to pay it back for 5 years. I want whatever the deal Saylor has. Please. Imagine going to your local bank. I'd like to get the deal Michael Saylor got, please. I'd like to borrow 84 billion, 0% interest, please, and I'll pay it all back in full within 5 years. Mark my word. I'll give up the Nipponator as collateral if I have to. Your former chairman of the SEC. Nipponator's the new collateral. You got to do what you got to do. Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. Fight card consists of the 3 matches. Will begin Friday. Why do they have these fights on Fridays? Typically, it's a Saturday fight night. But I'm, of course, rooting for Garcia. I'm a fan. That's going to be a good one. I watched, actually, the press conference, so thanks for the reminder. I also believe Crybaby Haney is going to be fighting on the same card. Who is Haney fighting? I didn't watch any of the promos for that. Strategy B had their earnings call. Excellent. JV, I know, just a billy. I'm not, yeah, 1 billion is only 1,000 millions. That's all 2,000 millions. I'm good. I think that's enough. Maybe.